Good morning, third grade, and happy Monday. It is the start of a new week. So before we get started with our new one for the day, I wanted to go back a little bit to the one where we were talking about the doctor and then about what you would want to be when you grew up. And I got a lot of great responses, and I saw a lot of great ones saying, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a teacher, I want to do this, I want to do that, and I loved that. And what I loved also is that not only did you tell me what you wanted to be when you grew up and why, but you told me really great things about what you need to do in order to be successful. I saw things like I need to be hardworking, I need to be dedicated, I need to be focused, I need to go to college, I need to do well in school, I need to pay attention to my teachers, I need to do a bunch of things. So I saw a lot of really great responses. And so let's keep that up, ladies, as we move into our next one, okay? So today our learning target is that I can identify key text features and use them to answer questions about a text. Now, we have all talked about text features so much, ladies, so we should all know this. So we're going to be looking at a couple specific text features today, okay? We're going to be looking at pictures. We're going to be looking at real photographs that were taken by someone of a real place. We're going to be looking at headings, and that's going to help us with what we're trying to look at and what we're going to be reading about. We're going to be looking at captions. So it's what's under the photo and tells you what the photo is about, and then also just the title. That tells you what the whole article is going to be about, or gives you a little bit of a hint, okay? So these are some of the things we're going to be looking at, and this is our learning target for the day. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So our title for the day is called The Grand Canyon. Okay, this is an actual place. These are actual photographs, so this is non-fiction text. Okay, this is non-fiction. This is actually true. This isn't a story. This is just facts. Let's go ahead and let's read. I see that since this is nonfiction, there's probably going to be a lot of facts, so I'm going to make sure that I use my highlighter to help really make sure I see those key facts. All right? The Grand Canyon. Read along with me out loud, and if you can't, then at least read along in your head. Make sure you're following me, okay? The Colorado River runs through the Arizona desert. The flowing water has cut a canyon into the earth. It is the Grand Canyon. Steep cliffs stretch as far as the eye can see. So right now I'm seeing Colorado River running through the Arizona desert, and that's where the Grand Canyon is being cut. So I might just highlight that a little bit. Now I'm coming up to a photograph. I don't want to just skip it and move on because this still is important. So I'll zoom in for us. Here's a picture of the Grand Canyon. So it stretches very, very far. It's all these rocks of sorts, and they look like they're going really high up and stuff like that. Now right here, underneath this photograph is a little sentence. And this sentence is our caption, what we were just talking about before. This is a text feature along with the photo. So it says, the Grand Canyon stretches for 277 miles across Arizona. That is huge. It stretches 277 miles. That's a lot. Okay, ladies, that's huge. So that's another important information we just found out. What is the Grand Canyon like? So this is a little bit darker and bigger than the rest of the text, which means this must be a what? What text feature is this then? It's the heading, yeah. the heading is going to help us understand what I'm going to read about next. So what is the Grand Canyon like? Well, the Grand Canyon is one of the world's largest canyons. It stretches for 277 miles along the Colorado River. It is 18 miles wide in some places. The Grand Canyon is so large that astronauts can see it from space. Oh my goodness. So astronauts, those that go up into outer space for research, they can see it from outer space. That means it's huge because you can't see just your house from outer space because it's so tiny. So the Grand Canyon is so big that you can see it from outer space. I think I definitely want to highlight that. And I already know it stretches 277 miles, but it's also 18 miles wide in some places. That's huge too. Oh, there we go. All right, we're going to keep reading. The Grand Canyon is also very deep, so it goes down really far. It goes about 1 mile down into the earth. That's still pretty deep, ladies. So imagine that you're just on, the road outside, and now you have to go down and dig a mile. That's a lot. This creates many different types of climates in the Grand Canyon. Snow can fall at the top while the bottom of the gorge is still hot and dry. So we're talking about climates, and this is a bolded word, which means it's a vocab word, but we don't get the information, we don't get it told what it is. So we're going to keep a lookout for that. We're going to come back to that. Thousands of plants and animals live in the Grand Canyon too. So now I have another picture here. And now I can see that this is some of the Grand Canyon, this is some rocks, and here are some people, and there's a little fence. And so my caption says, the Grand Canyon is so large that snow falls at the top of the canyon while the bottom is hot and dry. And I see another one here, and this caption says, the Grand Canyon's layers span more than 2 billion years in age. Let's read up here real quick. Scientists study the rocks in the Grand Canyon. Some rocks formed 2 billion years ago. So it was here, some of it was still here 2 billion years ago. That's a very, 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 very long time ago. A lot can be learned from these old rocks. They tell a story about the Earth's history. And now we're going to get into the history of the Grand Canyon. Okay, that's our next heading. The Grand Canyon was formed by erosion, and erosion is just the act of slowly breaking down. So, for example, if you put a can out into your porch or wherever, and you let the rain fall onto it, eventually it's going to all break down because it's going to do erosion, okay? It's going to go through that. So that's a big word there. I will highlight that. This took millions of years, so erosion happens very, very slowly, okay? River water carved the rocks away. So when the river water came through, it then eventually pushed some of the rocks. The wind also shaped the rocks. Over time, erosion turned rock into deep canyons in the earth. So both water and wind helped make the Grand Canyon. Here is another photo, and it says the Grand Canyon was carved by the Colorado River. So here's the river right here, and here are the rocks. Native Americans lived around the canyon for thousands of years. The first Europeans reached the canyon in 1540. A Spanish explorer wanted to cross the canyon with his crew, but the Grand Canyon was too deep. So Native Americans lived around the canyon for thousands of years, and Europeans reached it in 1540. So this says Coronado sets out with his Native American guides. So we're going to learn about how some people tried to visit it and go to it. John Wesley Powell, so this is a man's name, led the first American trip to the canyon in 1869. He gave the Grand Canyon its name. Oh, so this man is what named it the Grand Canyon. President Theodore Roosevelt visited the canyon many times. He thought it should be protected by law. The Grand Canyon became a national park. So when the president says that it has to be protected by law and names it a national park, that means that nobody can do whatever they want there. There are certain things. They can't, go whenever they please. They can't do this. They can't do that. That's to help make sure that it stays safe. So here is an old picture. Here's President Roosevelt right here. Okay, so these are all of his colleagues, people he works with. And it says, President Theodore Roosevelt visiting the Grand Canyon after asking citizens to save the land for future generations to keep sure that it stays safe. And our last sentence says, today, millions of people visit Grand Canyon National Park. Excellent. So that was a lot of information, but we did very, very well. So good job. Here is our first question. In which section would you add information about the animals in the Grand Canyon? So where would I want to add information about, oh, well, there are, these types of birds in the Grand Canyon. There are these types of animals. In the very first paragraph, right here, the Colorado River runs through the Arizona desert. The flowing water has cut a canyon into the earth. It's called the Grand Canyon. Do I want to jump in and just start talking about animals when I don't know a lot about what the Grand Canyon is like? Do I want to wait until the next section? What is the Grand Canyon like? Do I want to do it, excuse me, in the section called the history of the Grand Canyon, where I'm talking about how it was found and the people that went there, or at the very end where I'm finishing up my story? I want to add it in where it says what's the Grand Canyon like, because that's where I'm giving the majority of my information. I don't want to start off at the very beginning or at the very end with important information, but the history of the Grand Canyon doesn't fit with the animals. We're talking about things that it's like. All right, this one is all for you ladies. So once I've read it, and you're going to pause it and answer the question, and then unpause it when you're ready to see it. What would you look at to tell you what each section of the story is about? What would you look at? Would you look at the pictures, the headings, the captions, or the title? Which one of these would help tell you what each section of the text is going to be about? All right, you should have an answer. If you don't, pause the video and get an answer. But if you have your answer, I'm not going to look at pictures to tell me what each section is about, because that's not going to tell me a whole lot. I'm not going to look at the title, because the title tells me what the whole thing is about. Captions tell us what the picture is about. But headings, that's what tells us what each section is going to be about, because this is a heading. This is a heading. Okay? Excellent. Climate is what? So remember, let's go back to where we found that word climate. Right here. It says this creates many different types of climates in the Grand Canyon. So what is climate? A type of canyon, a type of plant, something very large, or weather over a long period of time. Well, if I keep reading, it tells me snow can fall at the top while the bottom of the gorge is still hot and dry. So figure out which one you think goes best with climate. Pause and answer. All right, if you're back, that means you have an answer. Weather, I see that it talked about snow and it talked about being hot and dry, and that's all types of weather, right? Excellent. Last one. Based on the text, a gorge is a blank. Well, what are we talking about, ladies? We're talking about canyons. Excellent job. All right.